everybody. I'm just going to give a minute for people to hop on here. So anybody who's watching this back, you're going to get a little bit of time of me just sitting here, not really doing much of anything. So just gonna wait for some people to get on. It's a nice day here in Hagerstown. All of my son's friends are outside playing with cars. It's like an episode of Fast and Furious out there. So if you hear talking outside or banging or whatever, it's because they're working on cars. Still waiting for some people to hop on. We have Louie over here in the corner, sleeping as usual. I'm going to try to share this. Share it on my personal page. All right. If you come on, just say hello. I'm just waiting for some people to hop on real quick. And once I do, I'll get started. I'm just going to share this video on my page, my personal page. How's everybody doing tonight? Like I said, if you hear cars revving in the background or banging sounds, my son has all of his friends over, and it's like an episode of Fast and the Furious. Bear with me for just a second. So don't have too many people on. Hi everybody. How's everybody tonight? Feel free to come on, say hello. I'll start in just a second. I'm trying to share this video. My laptop is super slow, that's why I don't ever use it. So today we're talking about paranormal theory and environmental variables. Kind of go hand in hand a little bit. Hi Sandy. If you just stay tuned just for a second, I'm going to share this video on my personal page, and then I'm going to really get started. I don't know why Facebook has to be so confusing. All right. Okay, so one of the topics I really want to put out there, I think a lot of people forget when they're investigating, and you know, environmental variables is the law of attraction. A lot of times you'll see people talk about kind of how your emotions are when you start investigating, and your frame of mind, you know, making sure that you are mentally and emotionally capable of doing a paranormal investigation. A lot of people don't really consider, you know, the impact of the emotion on the environment. They consider what the paranormal aspect could do to your state if you're not quite ready. So think of it as like people are like magnets. So whether it's the living or the dead, we all have this almost polarity to us. You know, we have this magnetic attraction. And you know, some people, their polarity is all negative, and you are probably going to attract all negative things. Some people are very positive, and they're going to only attract positive things. So, you know, if you go into a situation during an investigation with a negative mindset, or, you know, the dynamic just isn't quite there, you know, you're just not in the right frame of mind, it could impact what you're getting on the investigation. So it really impacts also if you are someone who has abilities. So if you go into a location feeling like, you know, angry or anxious or irritated, you're probably going to generate that response in the spirits, or you're going to attract that kind of spirit to you. So ideally, you know, before you go into an investigation, you've got to try to clear your mind and maybe meditate for a little bit and try to make sure that your particular emotional state is not going to be a variable that could impact the investigation. So it's kind of what I'm sliding into today. I'm going to start talking about, first of all, the variables that could impact the paranormal aspect of a location. So what things could increase it, what things may not increase it, and feel free to comment at any point in time whether you feel belief-wise if these things impact the paranormal activity, or if you feel like maybe it's just a myth. So like I said, the first thing is people. You know, our energy and our auras have a lot of impact on what's around us. You know, if you go in someplace and there's a lot of tension with you, it could affect other people, especially if people are empaths. So, you know, changing the environment. And they've even considered that our energy could entrain other things. So basically, if one thing is completely positive and you're negative, eventually those things are going to be entrained and be intuned. So it could be that the negative vibe could corrupt that positive vibe, or the positive vibe could corrupt the negative. So I would say it's based on how strong somebody's abilities are in that regard. Another thing people talk about is the weather. Do you feel that the weather impacts a location, the activity? The rain, does the rain impact it? Humidity, does the barometric pressure impact a location? Does it, you know, if it's dry outside, or if it's the sun is shining, if it's nighttime, if it's daytime? Do you feel that what is going on outside really has a big impact on the activity? Or is it more of that particular spirit or energy is influenced by a, you know, hey John, is that entity influenced by a specific type of weather? You know, thunderstorms could generate a response in a spirit that actually has, yeah, definitely, Sandy. She says, you are right. I watched a group the other night, and the leader of the group was walking around antagonizing the spirits, and all he got was negativity back. I agree. You know, you know, a lot of people talk about like the provoking, and I really feel like in general, us being in some locations can be very provoking to spirits because they don't want you there. But, you know, if your first response in going into a location is to just antagonize them and yell and cuss and just generally be, you know, negative, you're probably going to get the negative response, whether it's a negative response from the spirit, or you're going to get the negative spirits in the location to respond to you more than something that, you know, wouldn't generally be negative. So it's something to really think about when you're out investigating, to make sure that you're on the right, more active during storms. I really haven't, like thunderstorms, I don't have good data to back it up, yes or no. I would have to say when it rains, it seems to be more active. We definitely have to do a couple more graphs basically on that data. So one of the things I want to explain is when we do our investigations, I keep track of all of the weather information, the pressure, the humidity, you know, is it raining, is it clear, what time it is, the temperature throughout the time, because sometimes the temperature could drop rapidly, and that could explain other things. But, you know, we're focusing tonight on talking about whether or not these aspects increase the activity or have really nothing to do with it. Yeah, I don't blame you, Sandy. I probably would quit watching it too. That negativity can also impact us, the living that are just watching it. So it's best to not, really involve yourself with anything that seems negative like that, because it's like these people that constantly share animals and babies being abused, these videos, and I don't understand why people share that on Facebook. It's very, very frustrating. But going back to the weather, I definitely feel like the rain does increase the activity, or not necessarily increase, but there's more of a chance that you're going to probably capture something when it rains. Ideally, this is all statistical data for us, so we have to kind of put that into practice and see why it potentially does that. I saw somebody talking about the moon phase the other day and its impact on paranormal activity. And I would agree. I used to work pediatrics for a very long time, and it was always full moon hit, we would have lots of babies born. So I really feel like the moon phase, for some reason, does have an impact on us as, the living, but we do not have any data that statistically shows that the moon phase has any type of impact on paranormal activity. It doesn't seem to be prevalent in any specific. I would have to say, out of all of them, the new moon has the most activity, but the full moon didn't seem to be more or less. It didn't really correlate with an improvement in activity or anything. So I personally feel that the moon phase doesn't really have anything to do with the paranormal. I feel like it's really the people who are involved in the investigation might have more impact than the moon phase would. So again, we're talking about variables, investigation variables, and whether or not, the theories of these things actually increasing paranormal activity. So anybody is welcome to comment. Feel free to, post up what you think. If you have any data, that's great. We love hearing about that. I love hearing about it because, if you're somebody who really documents everything on investigations, hey, Rachel, I love to see how people, keep that documentation and then how they transfer it over into things that other people can, really establish a good conclusion. So moon phases. Anybody has anything to say about moon phases? Feel free to, throw up some of the information there that you have. One of the other things is rock formations. I see a lot of people talking about the fact that limestone has an increased chance of, if the building's made out of limestone, if there's limestone deposits in the area, it increases activity. Or is it increased activity, or does it just, does activity, is a conduit like water? Does it allow for energy to, transfer and move around? So places that have these deposits, that these spirits can freely move from place to place because of them. You would think, Sandy, the full moon, you would think it would be better, but every single piece of data that I have does not show that the full moon increases it. I will be honest, I feel like the time of year is most important. Colder weather actually seems to be more prevalent. We have like Oddfellows. Moon phase doesn't seem to, if it's raining, it does seem to increase the activity. If we investigate between April and October, that seems to definitely be a more, you're more likely to experience something in that time frame. It doesn't mean that there isn't activity outside of that. It's just way more prevalent in that time frame. So all these things are variables in an investigation that we keep track of. So eventually I can put, if we've done 30 investigations in one location, I can plug it all into a graph and I can really figure out whether or not the activity has increased or not based on these variables. One of the other things I would say is whether or not there's things in a location that can increase, is there objects in the place that have, you know, energetic residue on them? Can that increase? Is that theory a good, you know, reason why an activity is occurring in a location? Do you have objects that you've seen move from one place to another and consistently always have the same spirit attached to it? Is there verifiable data for that? So, you know, there's a lot of these variables that are part of people talking about paranormal investigation and how it increases, or could be an explanation for why the activity is there. So I just kind of wanted to put out there, you know, some of these things for other people to give me input. What do you think? What do you feel like improves or decreases activity in a location? So just throw that up there. Those are just the variables that I wanted to discuss tonight. Feel free to continue commenting on them, and I can go back to them in a minute. But the other things I wanted to talk about, things like ITC, instrumental trans communication. I've noticed a lot of people lately are really exclusively using ITC as their sole means of investigating. I've seen quite a few groups post up live videos where the only thing that they're doing is ITC experiments. I really want to know for these people, you know, because it's really hard to have each one give information, because a lot of times these people do these things and they have hundreds of people commenting. So you can't really get like the meat and potatoes of information from them while they're doing these sessions. So I really want people to tell me how they feel that ITC has improved their paranormal investigations. Do you feel like they've increased your knowledge? Do you feel like you are a little more confused about locations? Have you found documentation to back up your ITC responses? I feel when I do, you know, we use a spirit box almost exclusively. I definitely feel that a lot of these applications that you use on your phone have a database of sounds or information that they use that come across. So I don't like the idea that it is predisposed to give you specific syllables or words. Do these people who create these know whether or not it can generate a response by listening to what you're talking about? If you say somebody's name or if you're asking questions, can it be influenced by the discussion in the room? And that's what worries me about a lot of these applications. And, you know, if they're really, oh, wow, you know, I got a response and it really fits with what we were talking about. I really wonder if it can. So to me, I don't want to use that kind of equipment. I would rather use something that's a little less technological and doesn't have that database. So I would rather have my SB7 or even an SB11 and be, you know, using that piece of equipment that doesn't, you know, it doesn't generate a specific response. And I know it can't. So I'd love to hear people's input on that. And I know that it may not be right now because I don't have too many people watching, just 5. But anybody who watches this later on, please let me know what you feel like with the ITC. I really would love to know. And if you don't want to post it on here, send me a message. I can even revisit the ITC discussion at a later date. I love using the spirit box, but I really feel in a lot of cases, even ones that I've listened to, hey Bridget, spirit box, I can't understand the phone apps. Yeah, they are difficult to understand, but I feel like when people use any of these objects, any type of devices that, you know, spit this stuff out, there is that audible pareidolia going on. People are gathering things that may not really be a spirit. It could just be the radio, and you're hearing something that is just not really there. So I really like a word of caution to anybody using any type of device that does this, even listening back to audio. Remember that everything can be misinterpreted. So really kind of listen to it a million times. Listen to it while you're investigating. Listen to it later on and really get a good idea of what you're hearing. I'm really good, Bridget. How are you? So again, if you're listening to an ITC, really don't, just grab something and run away with it. Because what if you sit there for like an hour and, you're talking to what you think is a person named Mary. You thought you got the name Mary, and you're talking to Mary, and you listen back to the audio and you're like, that wasn't Mary. That was nothing. That was just the radio. You could have spent an entire hour talking to a Mary that really wasn't there, and it really wasn't a response that you got. So it's really important to make sure you know what you're listening for, because it's almost a waste of time. Sandy says she'd like to see dowsing rods being used. I'll give you a quick story. I was never really a big advocate for dowsing rods. I feel that, a lot of people talk about like ITC and EVPs, just talking to spirits, doing Ouija boards, doing dowsing rods. It's all the same thing, which, yes, it's all, a way of channeling and trying to talk to spirits. However, certain things use your energy. A Ouija board uses your energy and other people's energy. And I'll be honest, I don't like a lot of other people's energy. And I really don't want my energy to cross with theirs. So if I shield, you're probably not going to have any type of response. So it kind of defeats the purpose if you're all trying to, channel your energy into the planchette. So why would you do that? It doesn't make any sense. You're using your energy, they're using theirs, and it's all getting mixed together. And that's kind of scary sometimes, because some people are just negative pods of ickiness. Dowsing rods, you're using your energy with those rods to connect to a spirit. And I will say I have seen them used and used well. Some people can, some people can't. Just remember not to use it over water. And if you walk through your house, it's going to find all your pipes, maybe your electrical wires, so be aware of that. We were at Trans-Allegheny Lunatic Asylum. I don't know how many people that are watching have been there, but our favorite friend, Copperhead, who used to be a guide there, he's awesome with dowsing rods. Awesome. So he was having great responses, and he allowed them. Pendulums is a great example too, Bridget. I have not really tried to use a pendulum, but I'm going to try. So Copperhead was having great responses, and he was using, different methods based on, his section of questioning, like cross them for yes, go out to the sides for no, or to the right for no. So he was switching it up so that it wasn't always the same, and he was giving the spirit the chance to change up how their responses were. So, it was a very long conversation that he had with the spirit, and it was great. It was great to see how these things worked. And again, Copperhead was great with them. My husband, Jeremy, decided he was going to try to use dowsing rods. And the mistake he made was using copperheads. Well, the same spirit apparently was talking, but he didn't want to talk to Jeremy. And they were asking it to use, the dowsing rods to answer the questions. Well, the dowsing rods came all the way back and were so back far enough that you could see the indentations in his arms, how it had spun them all the way around. So he couldn't get them to release the rod, so he ended up having to give them back to Copperhead. So really good idea is to not use other people's rods. We actually, let's see if I have them up here. Yeah, I do. You move one thing and everything falls down. So Jeremy's dowsing, I think actually these may be mine. We created our own. These are made from very thick copper wire that we went and bought from Lowe's, and we bent them ourselves. Now, if these are in fact mine, which I'm not quite certain. No, they're not. These are Jeremy's. He bent them himself, so it's a great idea. You get to know them, let the energy get used to you, kind of like crystals, just kind of get to know them and use them yourself. But I don't really use dowsing rods, so you won't ever see me on a live anytime soon doing dowsing at any point. And I don't even like touching his. I can definitely tell. He's used them quite a few times. Anyways, so dowsing rods was a great thing to bring up. Some people don't believe in them. Some people do believe in them. Let's see. So moving on to EVPs. How many people actually use audio for their evidence? Like everybody. I do see more and more people kind of discouraging it, which I don't know. I'd love to hear other people's commentary about EVPs. You know, how often do you come across an EVP that is completely explainable? Recently, I had one of our former members send me an audio file that she had clipped off that she couldn't understand. You know, it was something from a long time ago, and we'd never reviewed it. And she sent it to me, and she said, you know, what is this? Well, I went into my own audio, and crazily enough, because of where her recorder was based to where I was, it was me talking, but it didn't sound like me. So again, it comes back to make sure that you know what's going on, because you never know what you're getting could just be completely normal. A lot of EVPs that I see people put up, there are really good explanations for them. So, are you talking about dowsing rods, John? I don't know what the, right now, it's probably a delay in response. I definitely feel like dowsing rods do have that, you know, that possibility, but you really have to kind of hold them in a way that you're not holding them. You know, it's just free to kind of do its own thing. We used to have a set, I think, that had like the round things here, so that you weren't actually touching the rod. They were free to swing. So you don't want to hold it like that. You actually want to hold it in your hand so that it's balanced, but you're not influencing its, you know, the way that it moves. Now, it may like, wow, this rod just wants to flip me in the face. But anyways, moving on from dowsing rods, I agree that sometimes people do squeeze them in their hands and it gives a false positive. I completely agree. So, you know, theory, do dowsing rods work? Hey, Melanie, do you think they don't work? Do you think it's more of the person that's making them work? The power of the mind is an amazing thing. But, you know, when it comes down to it, are we the ones that are influencing equipment? Are we the ones that are making the lights light up or the bells go off? Who knows? Because it's, you know, it's something that we have no clue. People all the time say there's no professionals, there's no experts out there. And you're right, because we have no clue what we're dealing with. We could all be creating all of these spirits in our heads, and we're communicating with our alter egos. Who knows? Anyways, another paranormal theory I want to go over is orbs. Orbs are like the thing that people absolutely cannot stand. I used to be the type that was just immediately like, no, sorry, that's bugs, dust, moisture. If somebody comes up to me is really excited about a picture, I may probably just tell them, you know, well, that's very exciting. You should try to recreate that picture. It's probably all I'm going to say. I really try not to discourage, because I don't really know. I wasn't there. So I don't really know if that was a bug that flew in front of you. I would hope you would notice a bug if it flew in front of you, but not always are these people in, you know, bright light, so they can't really see it. But it comes back to my discussion in the last live. Please do your homework, and please look at everything with a grain of salt and try to use logic to explain it, because you look kind of foolish when there's a perfectly good explanation for what you're trying to show people. But orbs. Back to a story that I know I've told before. I saw a ball of light come out of a room at Trans-Allegheny. It hovered in the hallway. It was about an inch, not an inch, about a foot in diameter. I thought it was a flashlight beam. I thought there were people down at the end of this hallway, and they were doing a session in a room. So I kind of let them do what they were doing. I was by myself. I was a spotter at a celebrity weekend that Trans-Allegheny was having. So I just kind of stood there for a few minutes just waiting to see if this thing disappeared. And it eventually did. It was about 5 minutes, I guess. It hovered there and it disappeared. Again, going back to the logic, I figured that they heard me come into the hallway. Now, I don't believe I had to open a door or anything, so a door didn't shut, nothing like that. So I don't really feel like that I would have interrupted. I was very quiet. But I felt I would like give them a few minutes to kind of, get their groove, whatever they were doing, and see if maybe they came out. Because a lot of times in these sessions, they don't stay in one spot for very long. So I went back and I started walking down the hallway after this thing had disappeared, 5 minutes later, and there was nobody in that hallway with me. So seeing this giant ball of light in the middle of a hallway on a 3rd floor where there's no way that anything came from outside and created this thing. So I don't know what it was. There's so many scientific explanations for balls of light like this that, don't include like photography orbs, ball lightning, or just pockets of EMF or things like that. So we don't know. I don't know. I can't put it under a microscope. I don't know what it was. And I won't say, oh, it's an orb I saw with my naked eye. I don't know. I have no idea. Was it a spirit? I don't know. Nothing else happened in that hallway. But it is weird that it happened as soon as I walked into the hallway. This thing kind of floated out into the middle of the hallway. So I don't know what it was. But when you take pictures, now I do photography, so I know very well. I've done it for a long time with the little teeny tiny point and shoots all the way up to my DSLR. I don't get those balls of light like that in my DSLR, like ever. I don't really use the flash either, so think about that. If you use flash every time you take a picture, it's going to bounce off of the surface of these things. And they're, the camera, that's how it recognizes it, as this ball. So, exactly. I will say the other thing that we see a lot, my husband, kind of tried to reword it a little bit. He calls them unidentified light anomalies. We have had situations where we've been investigating and we've seen these weird pinpoints of light. And it's not just one of us. A lot of us see them in the same spots, in the same areas, same locations. Usually red, green, and blue. I don't think I've ever seen purple. And no, we weren't using a laser pointer or anything like that, a laser grid, nothing like that. This was even started pre-laser grid, before people really use those things. So they are, a very strange anomaly that other people have seen. John has a long one. Problem is, everyone wants to capture that evidence, and when they get something, they post it on Facebook, and tons of people tell the person it's got a face, or it's demonic, or whatever, who claim to be investigators or psychic. Yeah, I mean, everybody wants a piece of the pie. Everybody wants to be right. Everybody wants to be known for something, and unfortunately, in most cases, these pictures are just dust or moisture. Go outside when it's really, really damp and take a picture with a flash on, and you will be astonished. Smack your couch at nighttime and take a picture with your camera with your flash on. Betcha a lot of those specks that fly up in the air will have faces. Again, when these fine particulates that you can't see with the naked eye fly up into the air and you take a picture, whatever its surface is, that's probably how it's going to appear. And a lot of these cameras, if you use a crappy camera, you're going to get that kind of picture. So get a better picture. I don't really recommend taking pictures in low light settings because honestly, there are so many things that can happen. The light reflects off of surfaces that you didn't realize were even shiny. Your reflection can be on things, so be really careful about what you take pictures of. I think we're kind of getting off topic, but I always like it when our topics kind of move to a natural channel. So orbs. I think the orb thing has like, you know, dandruff. Yeah. The orb thing has kind of like wore out its welcome. So like, I feel like it's time to move on to the next thing. EMF. So we're still hung up about the EMF idea that spirits use it or emit it. I don't know. I saw somebody talking about the fact that they feel like static electricity is a more important thing to focus on than EMF, because they don't feel like EMF has anything to do with it. They feel like now it's, you know, does this seem like the egg idea? You know, eggs are good for you, eggs are bad for you. I feel like the paranormal field's kind of the same thing. It kind of goes through cycles of this and that. People go back to the K2. People go back to now, like they're recreating the SB7. So, you know, this is cycle of things that are and aren't. What do you feel? Is EMF something that you should focus on? I focus on it personally because human beings can be very affected by EMF. We can feel paranoid. We can hallucinate. We feel sick to our stomachs. So if you have a client or, you know, other investigator that feels this way and you measure and you can explain it away by EMF, that's a really good indicator that there's absolutely nothing paranormal happening there. It's just high EMF. Another good example, which if Sarah comes on here and watches this, she'll probably yell at me, but I have a friend that she had noticed like her dog wouldn't go through a certain area of her home. It would bark at it, and I immediately, when I went in, I stood in the area that she said, and I felt like somebody was watching me. So I immediately look around for any type of EMF producer that was nearby, and I saw immediately that her Wi-Fi, her router, was sitting right there. So I asked her if I knew like the time she had something happen, she got new internet or something, and I said, does the time frame with the new internet coincide with why the dog wouldn't go in that area? And it did. So it was really great we could explain the reason why the dog didn't want to go through there is because of the high Wi-Fi signal that's right in that area. It made the EMF meter kind of blip back and forth. So knowing the EMF could explain why somebody's having issues. So just remember, just because spirits may not have anything to do with it doesn't mean it's not something that you need to focus on. EMF is an important part of recreating paranormal activity or paranormal experiences, or just situations where it allows you to explain it away. And it's using science that we know, science that is proven. Anybody has any thoughts about EMF? Feel free to post them up. I'm not sure what time it is. I wasn't going to do a long session today because it's Wednesday. It's not my regular day. It's 7:38. So, I still feel like I will be doing more of these live sessions, like shorter informational ones. As soon as the kids go back to school, it'll probably be a lot easier. I'd love to post up little things for people to share that have information. Now, I've been having huge problems. Like, I create these little, anybody who follows my page, you're going to see these little informational posts that I've literally sat for hours and thought about and created for educational purposes. And people have been taking APS off of them and using them for themselves. Please, I beg of you, I spend a lot of time. It is my intellectual knowledge that's going into this. It's all me, things that I've learned over time, and I want you to share them, but please keep our name on them, please, because I spend a lot of time doing it. Hours. I'm telling you, hours. And some of the pictures that are associated with them are actually my photography. So I actually go ahead and use them for APS stuff because a lot of them were taken during APS events. But anyways, I want to do short informational videos that kind of help people out, you know, starting a group, finding good members, how to do a paranormal investigation, things that you should document, waivers, setting up a ghost hunt, things like that. just little informational things that would be helpful to other paranormal investigators or people who are enthusiasts, you know, places that you can go to just do paranormal investigations, just yourself with, you know, other ticket holders and things like that. So hopefully I'll be able to start that soon. I didn't even start planning for tonight's live until like a few minutes ago. So that's really bad of me. But anyways, other information, we have our tickets again on sale for Oddfellows in October. Sharon Lewis, our psychic medium, will be there all 3 nights, and we're having the Paranormal Investigation 101, and then 3 different ghost hunts to choose from. If they're 2 hours long, so you're not in there for a long period of time. Just get a little bit of a taste of one. And we don't have an age requirement, but we're asking, like, I would say 12 and up is the best choice. 10 maybe. Just make sure that any child that you bring to it, parent or guardian is there, and you have to make sure that it's a very good question, Sandy. Give me a second. Make sure that your child is able to do it, because sometimes there are things that happen that may scare them, it could traumatize them. So make sure that they are absolutely ready for this type of event. You can go to AntetumParanormalSociety.org, and in the upcoming events, if you click on that, there is a link in that will take you straight over to where you can get tickets. And I have it posted on our page quite a few times. It's $15 for the Paranormal Investigation 101, and then it's $20 for the actual ghost hunts. And all of that money goes to the Oddfellows for maintenance and upkeep of their historical building. Remember that their building was a armorer's residence for the Harper's Ferry Armory and Arsenal. So it's a very old building, and they've kept it very, very close to what it was when it was built. So great graffiti. There's stuff written everywhere in that place. That's soldiers that were stationed there. Very cool. If you Google the Harper's Ferry 22nd Elite New York Militia, you'll see pictures with Oddfellows in the background. Soldiers all lined up in front of it. Very cool. Sandy asks, are there stones or crystals that can help with the effects of EMF? I do not know, Sandy. I can write that down to try to see if I can figure it out. My recommendation is that EMF crystals. If you're in the presence of high EMF, just get out. It can just make you feel very sick. And again, you know, going back to, we don't know the effects of EMF. There, obviously, cancer is way more prevalent. Now, I don't know if it's because, you know, we have social media and you can see more people that have cancer, if there's just a lot more people, you know, that are actually getting it. We don't know if it's aggravated by high EMF because we are surrounded by it anymore. Our phones, our, you know, our homes, our cars, and it's something to think about. So I would say if you are in the presence of really high EMF, just get out, move away from it, and try to go into some nature and try to clear yourself. So that's how I feel about that. Now I sound like Forrest Gump. Anyways, I think that's all I have to say. No, we, announcement about our group. We are, hopefully changing our schedule a little bit in September. We will not be signing up with the National Ghost Hunting Day, but we will be participating. We're thinking about going to the warehouse on the September 29th. So we just have to switch around our Adopt a Highway. For Oddfellows, you do not need to bring equipment. We will have equipment there. And hopefully we can do some hands-on stuff so that you guys can see how it works. But that's totally up to you. You're welcome to bring equipment. You'll just be with the rest of us. We are only selling 5 tickets to each little ghost hunt. So it's a lot of intimate, you know, ghost hunting. It's not like you have a whole bunch of people with you. So it's going to be really nice. Normally we have like 10 tickets that we sell. So that's not going to happen this time. You'll have more than likely myself, one of our other members, and Sharon there. So it's going to be so much fun. October at Oddfellows is a lot of fun. Yeah, I think that's about it. You guys have any comments, questions, or topic ideas, feel free to post them in the comments, or you can send them to me private message if you don't feel comfortable doing that. And feel free, if you have any discussion topics that you want that have to do with this particular live, feel free to send me a message, and I'll try to help you as much as I can. But that's it for tonight, guys. I'm Rebecca Boyer. I am the co-founder and case manager of Antietam Paranormal Society, and I hope you have a good night. Bye.